Hello, we're talking about split a site, and we're just going to talk about how to hold it down as a defender and some bait plays you can set up, as well as where you should be placing your util to ensure that they're not able to just get the site for free. I see a lot of players struggle on this map, a site specifically, so hopefully these pointers will help out quite a bit. In this series that I'm doing, I'm just going over all of the maps and all the positions that you can play, and if there's anything you'd like to see me improve on in these guides, just let me know, and I will try and implement them in the coming videos. Aside from that, I do have a CS video up on my second channel, so I'll have that linked in the description and in the pinned comment below if you want to go check that out. It's more old XTR style with like editing with music and whatnot. So if you want to see something like that with Counter-Strike, go ahead and check out that video. But aside from that, let's get started. So first off, we have the aggro play, which can be done with any agent. All you really need is some sort of flash here, right? I've seen skybirds, KO flashes, anything really works for this pretty well. As long as you're up against the barrier, you're ready to go. If you're Phoenix, you can just flash around the corner and start to take a fight. This aggro play works, but it's not always a good thing to do. If you're running out of ideas and options, then it's pretty good. Or if you have a strong feeling that they're going to be pushing A and you want to combine some util with your flash and whatnot. Raze is really good rocketing down ramp if you have a really strong hunch that they're going A site, or if you want to confirm that they're A with Phoenix flash and then Raze ult in. So there's a few ways you can do that. For the most part though, we're not going to talk too much about aggro plays because it's really as simple as throwing some util in and pushing in and controlling that zone. Once you have this zone controlled, at that point, it's kind of worth it to just back off because it's not the best idea to just stick around here. If you get like 1 or 2 picks in here, then it's smart to back off. If you have presence like mid and B, then you can push through with no problem. And that's just a bit of extra space and extra confirmation that they're not really working towards A. Aside from that, if there's nobody ever here and they don't send a lurk here, it is a smart idea to push through and maybe go down into sewers and try and catch a mid player off guard. Just make sure you're not doing it every single round because they are going to get wary to it the first time you do it. Maybe the second time they'll start catching on and they'll start watching that pretty consistently. So just be careful of that. Make sure you're not predictable. At every rank I see it, like people will just push down every single round and they become extremely predictable even when they're getting punished. So aside from that, yeah, there's a few cool angles you can play here. So there's close angle here, which is okay if you have escapability, but only really if you have escapability. If I end up playing here for some reason with Phoenix, which does happen sometimes, it's usually when I drop off rafters and I'm kind of stuck in this position. I'll go for a flash peek like this. And then if I get a kill or if I don't see anyone, or if I don't get a kill and they fall behind the corner, I can molly this off and then wall myself out and use that to kind of get myself out of this angle, because I don't think it's a very good area to sit because you can get util dumped really easily, and it's only good if you have a crossfire from sight. Now flower pot's a good cheesy angle. This will work sometimes. If you have a lot of util, I wouldn't really recommend it, and this is all under the pretense that we are actually fighting for sight, by the way. So flower pot's good if you have, like, if you're chamber and you can teleport out, but if you've never played it, like, it's good to play it once or twice per half, I think, if you're an A player, because you can catch people off if they don't hard clear it. Just make sure you have somebody on site actually supporting you. If not, then that's perfectly fine. You don't really need somebody to support you. If you're good for 2 here, then this is a good spot to play. It's kind of my rule of thumb. If you're in a one and done position and you get 2, you've basically done more than you should have in that position, so it's worth it. So just use your head, use your brain when you're actually playing in one and done positions like close and then flower pot. But aside from that, my favorite position of all time on this map is sign. Sign is such a good position to play, especially with any flashing agent. Now the way I'll play it is I'll usually just play off sound, and when they get to about this point, then I will flash over like this and I'll go for a peek on the right side. I don't ever peek the same side that I'm flashing usually, just because I don't want to get pre-fired. You can peek this angle if you want to. I just prefer to throw it like this and then peek the opposite angle. Now there are a lot of cool bait plays you can do here. What I like to do with a teammate on A is I will have them play at this angle and show presence, and I'll have them take one fight and then fall off and start kind of fighting like around elbow, and not really dying, but, you know, at least having presence in elbow here so they don't expect me to just be sitting here. And then once they have shown that presence and someone starts walking out, what I'll do is I'll usually go for a kill If I get the kill and I see there's another, I can then flash around, and I'll usually be good for 2 just by doing that simple bait play. So this bait play can be done with any agent, as long as you have 2 players here. One is showing presence, the other is sitting tucked. You can even do it in this angle as well. So there's a lot of ways you can do it. I will say A-Site kind of lacks in like angles to play. Like a lot of the angles that you see on A-Site are all one and done angles. So it's a bit hard to play around this site properly. But if you use this box to your advantage whenever there's an A take, it's pretty easy to get a lot done from this position here. And then you're just left with these one and done positions, and then elbow where you're kind of stuck if they get onto site. So it's very difficult. But the name of the game for a site is just playing off your teammates, right? That's how you're gonna do anything on this site. Is you have to play off each other, and you have to call to your teammate what you want them to do and what you're going to do, and like fill them in on what they're gonna do. Aside from that, most people just play like here, and they'll kind of just shoulder and spot, and then you can play retake. That's fine too. But you can hold a site pretty easily if you have 2 players ready to set up a bait play. I will say that's kind of like the main way that I see this site held is just by setting up bait plays and kind of coordinating with your teammates and whatnot. So keep that in mind. You also have this. If there's a lot of presence here, you can call for this to be smoked off, and you can kind of just sit out here and hold the smoke. If you get one trying to run through the smoke, then you can always just molly it and then kind of hold the smoke again, or just fall back to site here. Remember, once you get a pick on split, it's always best to kind of fall off and not re-engage for no reason, okay? Another good play you can play with anyone that has like a wall, like Neon or Phoenix, or anyone that can fake like movement. Another play you can do is kind of take a fight from over here, like this. And then if you have a second, you can wall up like this and kind of fake that you're crossing back to site, and then continue to sit here and like peek around the wall like this. Or you can go to sign here and flash around. There's a lot you can do with these characters depending on your util. Also, Chamber is very good at flower pot position. This is well known. And aside from that, Sage can also throw some pretty cheeky walls on a site by walling this off, or even walling like this if they really feel like it. And that just cuts down on angles that you have to worry about. Now, this Rafters position is pretty good as long as you have somebody else to fight with you, like sitting here, or just sitting here so they can actually trade you. What I will usually do is I will sit up here and kind of shoulder like this, as long as there's somebody holding up here for me. And sometimes we'll have to play the setup where it's like 1 on site, 1 rafters, 1 here, and then you obviously have the 2 B players. This is like a good heavy A setup that we'll play during ranked. So what you can do is if the smoke comes down, you can always flash out of it. I prefer to just kind of walk out of it, because usually it ends like about here when smoke players don't really know what they're doing. It'll end like right about here. You can kind of just walk out, take a fight, fall back into the smoke, and then just wait. You can even flash back out of it if you're feeling extra greedy, but I wouldn't recommend doing that, as I don't think it's a great idea. But walking through the smoke up here is okay, but you have to make sure that they're fighting somebody on site. This should only really be done when you are like certain that you're throwing off a timing. When you're certain they're not going to be staring at this angle. So wait till they're about like this point maybe, or wait till they're fighting a teammate here, or even elbow. And then you can kind of walk out, try and secure a free kill, fall back into the smoke, and then either go ramp, or you can go back to screens and kind of get out through that way. A good way to retake screens with Phoenix is to kind of throw a wall like this, throw a flash like this, and then flash back into this corner, and you're already on site. Everyone on site is blind, everyone in elbow is blind, and that's one of the best ways I found to kind of util dump in order to get back onto site if you want to continue to fight for site. This can be done with pretty much any agent as long as they have some sort of cover or some sort of flash. You can also just flash around this corner, right? Like, let's say there's no wall here. You can throw a flash like this and kind of jump into this corner and then continue on. So there's a lot you can do to kind of get out of screens and back onto site to rejoin the fight, right? Don't do it alone, obviously. Like, if you're going to be doing something like this, make sure there's either a teammate somewhere on site, or your team is ready to go out with you, one or the other, or there's a teammate Heaven ready to kind of capitalize on what you're doing. Now, Heaven up here is kind of hard to fight with flashing agents. It's not like the greatest area you want to be fighting. I always struggle fighting up here, like, I'll be honest, because when I throw my flash, people will just like insta-tuck behind this box. And if they're playing up here, they'll generally just be holding behind this box. If they get flashed, they just tuck. Okay? So it's not the best area to fight from up here. What I'll usually do is I'll just call for a smoke. And then I'll kind of try and deal with actual site control, right? But you can fight for it, okay? What you can do is you can flash around this box and then kind of continue on like this. And if there's somebody behind this box, you can throw another flash like this. You just have to worry about the people running up ramp. So that's why I don't really like fighting this area. There's a lot of cover that the enemies can use after they get flashed. So it's a lot better with characters like Raze, who can throw a nade behind the box. And then somebody can like throw a molly like this, right? And then a nade back there, and you can flush this player out and then kind of retake this control and start fighting for this, okay? So there's a lot you can do up here, but it's just very difficult. You have to use util in the right areas to ensure they're not getting back into cover safely. That's why a lot of players struggle to hold ramp. That's why you'll see so many players get up to this ramp position as well, and then they just sit here for so long, because it's very hard for the attackers to push into here, and it's very hard for the defenders to take this space back from you. So it's kind of like a little stalemate area where somebody's got to do something, but half the times nobody really knows what to do up here. If you want to regain the position up here, all you really need is a molly or another molly here. So 2 mollies, and then to just hold this angle, and then some flashes from any of the agents to kind of clear this back out and push them back a little bit. And then you could toss a smoke down here, or just fall back after getting the pick and smoke this and play around this angle here. Usually once they have this control though, I will give it to them, because a lot of the times they never are able to really do anything off of this control. They have this control, but they're stuck here usually is what happens. So if they end up getting this control, I'll play up here. I'll wait for somebody. If I get a peek, I'll get the kill. I'll molly it. I'll call for a smoke, and then I'll continue just this big stall game with the enemy players. So it's very easy to kind of hold this area, and this is a very crucial area to hold, because if you lose access to this area, the enemies can run into CT, they can run down ropes and kill your male players, they can run out heaven, kill your ace site player. There's so much they can do with heaven control. It's just, it's not ideal to lose it. So if you can avoid dying by fighting for this position, then by all means do it, and then just hold this area up here. Playing behind this box and flashing as they come out into this area can also be very, very strong. What I'll usually do if I'm not playing in this angle over here is I'll wait for them to start getting to like this point. I'll throw a flash. I'll go for a fight. If I get a kill, I can either keep holding it, or I can just fall to CT and make sure they don't come out CT. If it's taking a while and nothing is happening and you need a pick, you can always flash back in and clear like this and try and get another kill before falling back out. So ace site's pretty like straightforward, like cookie cutter play. For the most part, you just got to understand what you're doing and how you're playing with your teammates. It's a very coordinated side of the map. Split is just a map in general where a lot of teamwork needs to be put into play in order to get a lot of these areas under control and to maintain control in these areas. So other than that, like there's not much to talk about. Like Split's pretty straightforward for the most part. Just make sure that you and your teammate are setting up bait plays on the ace site. Make sure that you and your teammate are calming to each other what's happening. You are cycling through your util, whether it's mollies, whether it's smokes, whether it's flashes. And every time you try and go for a fight, your teammate knows and he can capitalize if he needs to. And that's pretty much all. Like ace site is pretty simple and it's really easy